to me, different's good, right? Just because everybody else was doing it or have been doing it doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's working. So we've kind of, flipped the script and tried to rethink everything and just make it a better product.
Welcome to Beyond the Bulldog, presented by Mack Trucks. I'm your host, Brian Wright. What you can expect from Beyond the Bulldog is to learn, enjoy, and participate from the comfort of your seat, whether on the road or off. You'll engage in topics and stories from people that work in the trucking industry, including some who work for Mack Trucks. This is mile marker number 9. Chad Melnik is the Executive Director, Go-to-Market for Truck Club, an aftermarket warranty provider for medium and heavy-duty trucks. Truck Club's mission is to empower owner-operators and trucking companies with tools, resources, and coverage to protect their livelihood and ensure their business thrives. In this conversation, you'll learn about Chad and Truck Club, understand some of the loopholes in aftermarket warranty, and how best to prepare for when the unexpected happens.
You're listening to Beyond the Bulldog, presented by Mack Trucks.
Welcome to Beyond the Bulldog. We have Chad Melnik. He's the Executive Director for Go-to-Market with Truck Club. Welcome.
Thanks, Brian. Excited to be here. This is fun.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So for the sake of the audience, what do you do?
That is a great question. I get asked that all the time. So with Truck Club, like you said, I'm the Executive Director of Go-to-Market and Growth Strategies. All things just trying to build our business, right? So Truck Club offers commercial aftermarket warranties for heavy-duty and medium-duty Class 6 through 8 trucks.
So what does go-to-market mean?
How we approach our sales, right? So how we're going to interact, whether it's with the direct-to-consumer aspect, right? So truck drivers, owner-operators themselves, or if it's with dealership partnerships, right? So if somebody's buying a truck, they'll offer the warranty at the time of purchase. And then we also have a referral program.
Got it.
So we work with individuals. Yourself could become a referrer for Truck Club.
So let's talk about some of your background, right? So what did you do prior to being go-to-market with Truck Club?
I did not have the traditional path, right? So college was a side note for me a lot of the time. I ended up going into racing. So I got into motorsports at an early age. So
yeah,
the semester would start before the end of the race season, right? So I'd miss the beginning and the end of every semester. But I was pretty heavily involved in motorsports. From there, that just kind of evolved. So I found through the motorsports, right, we worked very heavily with sponsorships and partners. I found that there was a niche there that you could develop a small marketing team. So I went that path. So while I was racing, I was also doing a lot of marketing for sponsors. Once I got out of racing, that continued to evolve, grew a small digital marketing agency, mostly focused on web design, digital ads. And then from there, I had some great partners along the way, people that supported me, right? So I came across this individual. His name is Tam Ayers, a young kid out of Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
He was helping me with my computer one day. We started working together on small projects. So technical questions that I might not have known, he was very he's very knowledgeable on them. So I'd pull him in to help with certain projects. And then he would also have projects from what he was doing. So he would pull me in for the design aspect.
Yeah.
And that relationship has been going on for probably 15, 20 years now. Tam was actually the one that pulled me into Truck Club.
So how did that happen? How did he find out about it? What was the introduction like?
Tam, our co-founder, along with Callie, our other co-founder, actually worked for who is now a competitor of Truck Club's.
Okay.
So they worked for them combined probably 20 years.
Got it.
Through that, there was a lot of, let's say, bumps in the road and things they didn't really care about, right? With how that company was treating their customers. It was really started to be a grind for them, and they felt bad about what they were doing. They just
got it.
It was not for them. And looking at it, they said, we can do this. We can do this better. We can offer a better product. We can be fair. You don't have to make $100 million to be successful, right? Sometimes success is seen as doing the right thing. And that's truly what they wanted to do. So they kind of went off on their own. I was number 3 in the company.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this now for a few years.
Cool.
And it's slowly started to evolve. It's been a slow build up. just trying to figure out what the industry needs and how to do it better, really.
Right. So kind of an interesting question, but when you're talking about racing, there is no extended warranty, right? So what did you have to rely on in order to make sure the car's up and running, that you can do, the work for your sponsors and stuff like that?
It's just preparation, right?
Right.
It all comes on. I think that goes to anything, right? Being prepared for something, as I am not prepared for this, but being prepared for things and having a plan, and the plan doesn't always go, as you might expect, but then you have your plan B and C, right? As you know from racing,
right?
The pit stop might not fall right where you want it to. So it's just being prepared, looking at what might happen out there, and having that game plan.
Yeah. So your responsibilities of the truck club, go to market. So you talk about strategy, how to approach dealers, how to position a website so that it's easy to use, people can sign up. What other things are a part of that?
In the early days,
yeah,
I wore a lot of hats. So it was from when we have a new partnership, I'd be stuffing envelopes to send them marketing materials, send them some swag, here's our hats and this and that. Like you said, right now, my main focus is on digital advertising. So that kind of takes me back to where I was, prior to Truck Club. That's a big part of it. I work with the sales team. I have my hands pretty much on everything.
Yeah.
Just trying to boost the team up, right? I don't like to work in a silo, and I don't like our people to work in a silo. We want to work as a team.
Yeah, terrific. So multiple hats, you get to see a lot of different things and then contribute in different ways.
Absolutely. Yeah. I eat, sleep, live Truck Club constantly.
How did your background in racing and marketing help you with what you're doing today?
I think, like I said, because I wear so many hats, right? It just prepared me to be able to pivot quickly, kind of see what's out in front of us, have a game plan, but also to be able to adjust that, right? Because not everything's going to go as expected. So just really having an open mind and a vision and a wide vision to see everything and not say, here's how it has to be, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really helped me a lot with this, and it continues to, right? Because even though we're becoming successful, we're doing a great job, we have lots of clients, customers, and partners, how can we keep growing? How can we do better? And not just for the business itself, but for owner-operators. It's gotten stale, right? So the commercial warranty, aftermarket warranty, it's been around for a long time. There's been a few big players, and they kind of set the standard back then, and we're trying to change the standard. So it's like, what doesn't work, right? And early on, one of the things that I really pushed for was we wanted to talk to owner-operators, right? We could sit in this boardroom or in this room right here and come up with a great plan, right? And you push it out there, and guess what? It doesn't work. It doesn't work for the people that use it, right? So we really looked at and talked to owner-operators, dealers, anybody we could in the industry to get feedback. What worked for you? What didn't work for you? What are your wants and needs? And I think that's how we, evolved our plan, our offerings, and how we approach the business.
Yeah. This year, Mack Trucks celebrates its 125th anniversary and the release of our new flagship truck, Mack Pioneer. To commemorate these historic milestones, Mack Shop has released limited edition apparel and accessories. From shirts and hats to coffee mugs and bags, Mack Shop has lots of ways for you to show off your love of this iconic American brand. And right now, podcast listeners can save 20% off selected items just by using the code MACPODCAST. One word, no spaces. Just go to MackShop.com for all the latest Mack styles and make sure to use the code MACPODCAST to get 20% off. We are here with Chad Melnik. He is the Executive Director, Go-to-Market with Truck Club. Let's talk about Truck Club. You mentioned some of the research and things that go in behind the scenes. Clearly, the two founders had worked in the industry prior, and they were not as excited with what they were offering, so much that they decided to open their own company and do something different. Share with me a little bit about that research that went into, and those decisions that kind of went into them starting this company. What were the things that really stood out that you're doing differently?
So the way we approached it, it was very grassroots. While we're, working the offices and coming up with what we think will work, we would also get on the phone. And I bet if you think or look around enough, you'll know somebody that knows somebody that drives a truck, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what we started doing. We would just ask friends, family, hey, do you know anybody in the trucking industry? Oh yeah, I know this person. So we would pick up the phone, give them a call, and just have conversations. Mm-hmm. And they're very open to it, right? Because it can ultimately help them and their fellow truckers.
Right.
So that's really, how we try to drive our mission forward was with that valuable information. Some of the things I think that weren't working are just when you have a claim, is it really going to pay, right? Mm-hmm. I've paid all this money, and whether it was for 6 months or 2 years or 3 years, am I going to get my claim, right? Is it going to be approved and get my truck fixed? Because the cost of the truck can be pretty high, right? A lot of guys are buying used stuff now. Obviously, with a new truck, it's going to come with a manufacturer warranty, but those are usually fairly short term, a couple of 2 to 3 years typically on those. Mm-hmm. And with the miles that these long haul drivers are putting on, it's not if, it's when something's going to break. And once you're out of that manufacturer warranty, that cost come out of their pocket. So what we try to do was, how do we give this, better product, right? How are they going to know that we're going to pay the claim?
Right.
That takes time. It builds trust, right? Mm-hmm. And that's really what our focus is, being open, honest, and transparent. A lot of the other offerings that some of our competitors have it's a menu of things. It's kind of a la carte. Well, if I have this many miles, I can buy this, or I can do that or this, right? And it's a little bit confusing. So our goal was, how do we simplify it? Mm-hmm. How do we provide the information to the owner operators? If they want to know what parts are covered, they should be able to see that, right?
Right.
Not after the fact. They don't want to be sitting there and wondering the shop. It's extensive, right? So we have an appendix of over 36,000 parts listed on our website that people can access.
Okay.
I don't know that anybody's actually read the whole thing. Honestly, I have not. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
But every part on these trucks is listed on there. And then, of course, we have our coverage appendix listing exactly how we cover things.
Right.
So I think knowledge and understanding of what you're actually buying is important.
Yeah.
And we want to provide that. The other thing is, a lot of times in the past, they've kind of packaged products or their warranties in very proprietary ways. So if you're a competitor, you might say, if you do not follow our particular maintenance schedule, we won't cover it, right? Yeah. And I think that's a heavy lift, because now you have to learn their maintenance schedule and you have to adhere to it. And then you have to also prove that you followed it.
Right.
So there's a lot of wiggle room to get out of paying these claims. What we did for that is, if you follow the OEM maintenance standards, that's all we expect, right?
Cool.
We're not going to push you too hard to do anything outside the box. Mm-hmm. Also, they'll package kind of aggregate of claims that they'll pay, right? So they'll say, well, this part's covered, but if it failed with this other part, we won't cover it. Or progressive damage is a big one, right? Mm-hmm. So we all know if you drop a valve in the engine, right, that valve's going somewhere and it's going to mess something else up. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, if it's not the initial part of failure, say the valve, dropping the valve, and it takes out your piston or whatever else it takes out, only initial part of failure will be covered. So to that point, we said, we're going to cover the initial part of failure and progressive damage that it causes, as long as it's a covered part, right? Because there are some things we don't cover. The aftermarket warranty is not a bumper-to-bumper warranty, right? We cover certain parts. We also look for things that other guys don't cover. Seals and gaskets is a big one, and it's a big way for these companies to get out of paying claims. Mm-hmm. If a seal fails and it causes damage, we don't cover that. That was the initial part of failure, right? It kind of all goes back.
Yeah.
So we have included seals and gaskets.
Nice.
So, yeah, we're taking a little bit of a risk on it.
Sure.
But it's worth it, right? If we're going to do the right thing, we got to do the right thing all the way.
What I've heard is that you're looking at doing things a little bit differently, starting with communication, setting the expectation so that when it is time to utilize the service, that the result's going to follow what you're having up front. So listing those online, trying to set that expectation based on the package, right? Helps that communication, gets that trust. Because the last thing you want to do, or anybody wants, is we're on the side of the road. Now we're at a dealer. We have a cost. And what we expect to be reimbursed for is no longer being reimbursed. So it kind of leaves a bad taste in the mouth. And that's not just necessarily with aftermarket warranties. It's with any insurance.
Sure.
You know, you start talking about, I'll just say life insurance, you know. That's one thing that's almost guaranteed because people don't live forever. But if you have something like long-term care, you really want to have it, but you never want to use it.
Right.
You know, and so you have to weigh what the cost is versus the benefit.
Yep.
Well, in this particular case, you know, with trucks, drive it enough, you're going to have a failure, you know, and just how do you prepare for that? So knowing in advance makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we had one of what we call them members, right? So truck club, you're a member of the club.
Nice.
Right? Yeah. So one of our members, this was probably a few months ago, had a transmission issue, right? He calls us right away. So we have several ways to get a hold of us, right? So we're releasing an app coming in about 2 weeks, actually.
Cool.
So we have an app that you can actually start your claims process right through the app. So it's always in your pocket, right? So if it's 2:00 in the morning, there's somebody there, right? Obviously, you can pick up the phone, you can email, whatever means you want to reach out to us.
Right.
We have the availability. But he had a transmission failure. We got the report back. We looked at it. We felt, it was an approved claim. We're like, absolutely. It was a $23,000 repair. Now, the plan that he was on didn't fully cover it, right? And I think that's one thing that a lot of the owner-operators need to understand. This isn't, we're not going to, we or anybody, a warranty will not fully take care of it, right? Hopefully, it just mitigates the damage a little bit, right? So on the plan that he had, there was a $15,000 claim limit for that plan. So we covered a big chunk of it. And he was beside himself and just so happy because he's like, I don't have the $24,000 or however much it was. He goes, but I can probably scrape together the difference, right, from what we were covering.
Yeah.
It was one of the first times we got to help somebody.
Right.
And we're like, oh, that's a big claim. But you know what? That's why we're in this. That's what we're doing. So
Sure. And that's communicated up front, right?
yeah.
Those limits and that type of thing, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So all of our plans, we have 3 basic plans. I shouldn't call them basic. We have 3 plans. And each one covers different component groupings, right?
Sure.
So you can get what we call an essential plan. And that will cover, basic components at a lower price point, right? And then we go up to our pro plan and then our elite plan.
Right.
Something we've done a little differently is we kind of created a subscription model. So while we work with dealer partners that we will wholesale our plans to, and then they'll resell them with a truck, right? They can build that into the price of the truck if they want. The owner operator can pay out of pocket for it, the full amount, right? And that's usually a fixed term, right? So it's either 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, whatever it is, right? And they buy that with the truck. What we saw is a bit of a gap, right? So let's say I'm not buying my truck from a dealer, right? Or I don't want that particular warranty. So we started a subscription model where they can buy either the Essential, Pro, or Elite plan on a weekly subscription.
Okay.
So lower price point. It allows owner-operators the flexibility to manage their finances a little bit better. Because I don't know about you, but I don't have $7,000 to shell out for a warranty for this and the truck I just built, right?
Right.
So that gives them flexibility. And what we've also done is the subscription can be canceled anytime, which
Really?
I love. It's also a little scary, right?
From your standpoint,
From my
right?
standpoint,
Yeah.
right? But it just takes away some of that burden, right?
Sure.
As a new owner operator, do you know that you're going to be doing this in 4 years? You just bought a 4-year warranty, right?
Right.
You're paying for that.
Yeah.
So maybe I, don't go with the 4-year plan. I go with the weekly plan. I hope that I'm doing this in 4 years.
Right.
But if I'm not wasting money up front.
And cash flow is king anymore.
Yeah.
Especially with the trucking industry, being where it is right now. People are pinching pennies. How do you save money? How do you maintain your fleet for a longer period of time? All of those questions come into play.
Yeah.
And if you have the choice between a weekly smaller bite versus, a full meal, a lot of times it's more attractive to keep that cash flow with your company.
Absolutely. And with the fleets, like you mentioned, right, it also gives them, I think the aftermarket warranty gives them predictability.
How so?
So if they have issues with their trucks, right, and obviously you don't know what's going to come up, but then you get hit with that large, huge expense, right? You can't really budget for that necessarily unless you have some really good predictive AI running on your trucks, right?
Sure.
So you have to do all that modeling. But it allows them to say, okay, if something does break, I might be out of pocket this much. They can kind of budget a little bit better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It just gives them a little security and a way to manage their finances as well.
Yeah, you can defer it over a longer period of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. So how does the whole dealer side work, right? So with owner-operators, companies with a fleet, they can do weekly. I'm guessing they could probably do annually too if they wanted.
If they wanted, we try to stick to the weekly and monthlies.
Cool. That's predictable.
Yeah.
That makes sense. How is it different with dealers? So let's say I'm in the market for a used truck and I go to a dealer that's got a number of trucks out there. Is it just like, okay, buy the truck, here's a truck club membership? How does that work?
If we're going to partner, let's say, with Brian's truck sales, right? We will, we provide you the warranty basically. You're a reseller of it.
Okay.
Right. So we say, here's your pricing. We drop the pricing. So there's some margin for you, right? Everybody has to make some money, right? You can't run a dealership on just, a smile and a hope. So we provide them the warranty, and it's not a tangible thing, right? They just know they have the ability to sell this warranty that we will then take over and give the protection for the truck. So we sell it to them at wholesale, and then they add it to the truck. They sign them up on our dealer portal, which is all online. We always have a person to talk to because that's important. But we've tried to streamline the process from a digital perspective because sometimes you just don't want to talk to somebody.
Sure.
Right?
Sometimes it's easier just to fire a text or an email.
Yep. We have all that capability. So they will, they'll sign them up online through the dealer portal. We then start interacting with that member, right? At that point, right? We welcome them, onboard them, explain everything, give them all their claims processes, and then obviously the app is another way for us to interact with them, which we're rolling out. So that will be great when that comes online.
This Week in History.
This week, America celebrates our independence. We too believe that all men and women are created equal, endowed with the unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These rights and our freedom are still in place, made possible through the leadership of our founding fathers and the sacrifices of our brave men and women who gave their all. Let's take a moment to honor them as we celebrate our independence and let freedom ring.
This has been This Week in History.
We're here with Chad Melnik, Executive Director, Go to Funding with Truck Club. So let's talk about a claim. Let's talk about the process that an owner-operator or a fleet manager or driver would have to deal with should something occur as they're on a delivery for one of their customers.
Sure. So I can reference, one we've had recently, right? So Jenna's truck broke down side of the road. First thing he does is reach out to us, calls us, just to make sure he's doing the right thing, right? I think everybody's a little afraid, as we talked about before, if you do the wrong thing, you won't get your coverage, right? The claim won't be paid. So contacted us. We said, is there a service center nearby that you can tow it to, right? And with every covered claim, we'll also reimburse towing. So
with that, is it a specified list of service centers or any
certified service center, right? It's not certified by us, right? I mean, we can't be fixing it in your backyard, but they have to be a certified service center.
Gotcha.
So he can take it wherever he wants, right? I think that's one of the big things. A lot of the companies will dictate as to where you can take it.
Okay.
And we have, some preferred people we work with.
Yep.
But we're not going to limit you to that for sure.
You might be in an area where they're not around.
Exactly. And we don't want to tow it 600 miles, right? If you don't have to. Those are expensive.
All right. So they contact Truck Club and you ask if there's a service center nearby.
Yep. So if they find their service center, they get the truck towed there, right? Then we'll start communicating. Once he knows where he's taking it or gets it there, then we'll start communicating typically that day with that service center. So we want to move quick, right? Because there's a bigger cost just besides the repair of the truck. There's that downtime aspect that we can talk more about a little bit. But we get to the service center. We start talking to their tech. Basically, that'll take them, depending on when they can get it in the shop, and start doing a tear down to figure out what exactly is wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
They'll typically send us a report, some pictures of the damaged parts, right? We'll compare that to their coverage. If everything is approved, everything looks good, we'll give the okay to go ahead and start the repair on the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the timing on that is up to the service center, right? We have no control over what their timing is to get you back on the road.
Right.
From there, we just stay in communication with both the driver to see where they are in the process.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, it's basically have them fix the truck. If it's approved, we'll pay for it. We have two paths we can take, right? We want to get the driver back on the road as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So one option is you can pay it out of pocket before we approve the claim. So if we're still trying to decide what the failure was or whatever, we haven't given approval, and it's, let's say it's a quick $800 repair.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I don't have whatever it is, a half a day to wait on this. I want to get it fixed and go. He can pay the repair center, and then we'll reimburse the driver.
Right.
Or we'll pay the service center directly, which is a lot of times what most people like to do.
Right.
So it just guarantees, they'll know, one, that the claim's getting covered, and two, it's not out of pocket anything.
Yeah. And I was going to ask that question, would it be a scenario where they're on the side of the road, they find the service center on their own, they go ahead and have that work performed? Is it a possibility for them to contact you after the fact, or do they need to involve you earlier on?
They need to involve us within, I have to go back and look, I'm
Sure.
not up on my notes. I believe it's 2 days we give them
Okay.
from the time of the breakdown to reach out to us and start the process.
Well, that's fair. I mean, if it's your $800 example, let's
Yeah.
say it's a quick turnaround one day, and they're really needing to get back on the road to deliver whatever they have. They pay out of pocket. They communicate as they're continuing the rest of their leg for that delivery, and then go from there. But of course, they'd have to have some specific information too, right?
Sure. Yeah, they definitely, we need to get all that information. We talk to the techs.
Yeah.
So if we have any questions, and the techs are great, they'll pick up the phone and
Cool.
talk us through everything and
Yeah.
say, I think it's this or I think it's that. I'm like, well, we need a little bit more than think, right? Is it or isn't it? So, but they're really good to work with us, because I think on that side of things, everybody wants, they've seen some hard times, right, here and there, and they know how tough it is. It's not an easy job,
Right.
for all those guys. So they want to help each other as much as they can, or at least in my mind, I hope they do.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that said, it's easier, I guess, to involve you guys in the beginning. The expectations are set a little bit. There's obviously a little bit more communication involved from dealer to truck club, also involving the driver as well.
Sure.
And doing that. But then at the end of the day, you kind of know how that process works.
Yeah, and it's, we try to be engaged as soon as possible, because I think one of the things that I mentioned before, our co-founders had seen is there's an aspect of, if we just drag our feet long enough, this will go away. We'll wear them down, it'll evaporate, and then that's not why you're in this business. I hope hopefully you're not why you're in this business, right? It's again, our mission is to do the right thing, and so if we get a call, we gotta move quick,
right?
Because like I mentioned, that downtime is expensive, and nobody thinks about that, right? They're like, oh, this is a repair cost. Great. Well, not only is it the downtime is expensive, right? You're losing revenue from being on the road, but it could also hurt the reputation of that driver.
Yeah.
Hey, my loads aren't moving. You said you were going to have us here then, and that could ultimately affect his business, because being a truck driver isn't just driving a truck. It's operating your own business. Independent business people. So.
And then we're talking about integrity, like you were talking about before. Setting the expectation, being clear up front, so that when it's the time of need, that there are very few questions, if any. Truck drivers have the same thing. Their business is based on promises to deliver whatever it is at a specific time.
Yep.
And failing to meet that clearly can affect how they're compensated. If they get the job in the future, depending on their dependability, and things that are out of their control, they want to minimize so that they can have that uptime.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the benefits that we kind of built in also is a thing we call final stretch coverage. So a lot of times, our competitors say, not all of them. I don't want to bundle everybody into that, but I've heard that if somebody's driving their truck and a warning light comes on, right, and they keep driving it and there's damage, they'll disapprove a claim because you knew there was a problem, i.e. the warning light, but you kept going. So it's potentially your fault that the damage occurred, right? But what we also understand is sometimes drivers, they get a perishable load and it's got to keep going, right? Maybe it's another 100 miles, 500 miles, whatever it is, and they want to finish that delivery, right? They want to deliver on that promise, like you said.
Right.
So we'll kind of pay a little extra for that final stretch. I think it's a $1,500 payout for that. That final stretch allows them to continue on, and if there is damage, we will try to cover what we can on that.
At what point should a trucker, owner-operator consider an extended warranty on their truck? Let's say they did buy it new. So they came with a factory warranty for, let's call it 3 years. So how soon should they consider a warranty? And on top of that, if they have their own maintenance facility on site, or they're doing a lot of the work themselves as far as oil changes, brakes, things of that nature, how does that factor into what their decision is?
If you look at a warranty, right, there's a reason that warranty from the factory is a certain time frame. I'm sure they've done the math. I'm sure they understand the failure rates, when they're going to happen, right? So they have a pretty good idea of what's safe for them to put a warranty on a truck. Obviously, when it rolls off the line, they expect it to be good.
Right.
But they know whether it's that 2, 3, 4 year, whatever that factory warranty is. At that point, there's potentially probably some risk involved, or else they would give you a 50-year warranty, right?
Sure.
They're not dumb, for sure. I think once you know that warranty's coming up, you need to be considering it, right? I think there's kind of that sweet spot, right? So those first 4 years or so, you're pretty much hopefully covered by the manufacturer. Once the truck's a little older, it's kind of gone through its phases, right? It's growing pains.
Right.
And that's usually a little bit of a safer zone. It's kind of in that middle, right? So once that factory warranty expires, you have maybe another 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 miles. And that's where it might be getting, a little iffy. So I think that's the time you want to consider it. It's and again, with our model, you can sign up for a week if you want, right? Or 52 weeks or whatever it is. So getting in there and getting it pretty early on, I think is important. Because like we said, stuff's going to fail.
Right.
It's not if, it's when.
All right, so here's an interesting question. Let's say I've got a truck. I'm not a current member of the club, and I know of a pre-existing condition, and here we are. Let's go ahead and sign up. How does all of that work? Because clearly you guys are in a business. You want to be here for a long time to continue to provide a valuable service. On the other side of things, you almost have to protect yourselves too, because if I know my engine's about to fail and I pay $100 and now I'm getting $50,000 engine or whatever it is, that's not a great business model. So, there's got to be a check and a balance too, right?
That's a great question. You're absolutely right. So what we've done, so on the dealer side, right, we try to partner with reputable dealers, right? Because there's dealers out there that are just selling trucks to sell a truck, right? So we try to find a reputable dealer to partner with. On that end, we put a little trust in the dealer that is selling a good product. And in that case, if the dealer is selling it attached to a truck, coverage starts day one. You buy the truck, you have coverage.
Cool.
So if the dealer does us wrong, they won't be a partner of ours for very long.
Right. Well, I mean, on top of think about a dealer, they're, for the most part, dealers are honest. They want to provide a product that their customers are going to enjoy so that when it's time for another truck, they're going to go back to that same dealer.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're, for the most part, going to be upfront, specific, and they're going to be being able to provide those aftermarket services too.
Yeah. So on the direct-to-consumer side, if you're just going on our website to buy it, which we'll touch a little bit more on in a minute, it's interesting how the sales process has evolved. But remind me to bring that back up.
Yeah.
But if you're a direct-to-consumer, we actually have a small wait period. So we basically, because we don't require an inspection, which is huge. A lot of our competitors, a lot of other people in the industry require you to take it to a shop, get an inspection, pay for that, right? It's an added cost, it's added time. So what we actually do is it's kind of a warm-up period, I like to call it. So if you go get your truck, right, we're saying, okay, great, we need these pictures, we need these serial numbers, we need to know what the engine is. We want your odometer. You're going to have to wait 30 days to get coverage, right? So we have that warm-up period of 30 days and 2,500 miles. So a little bit of time, put some miles on it. We want to know it runs, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the 30 days, you send us another picture of the odometer, right? And then whatever require there, and then you have your coverage.
Perfect.
The seals and gaskets that we include is an additional time frame because it is a higher risk.
Right.
So we have another 60 days on that. So at the end of the 90 days, you have the full coverage, seals and gaskets on all the plans, plus the regular coverage, which for whatever plan you chose.
But that's fair. I think any responsible person's going to understand that, there's a give and a take to everything.
Yeah.
And knowing that information, if I'm going to consider something like this, maybe my warranty is going to expire in 3 months. Let's call it 6 for the perfect time frame. I might be able to consider, all right, well, we can start something as the other's about to expire so that I'm fully covered without a gap.
Exactly.
Because the last thing you want to be is down the road without insurance. And then, of course,
It'd fall in that
Law.
week.
Murphy's Law kicks in, and now you've got whatever service needed, and you're down.
Yeah. I know I've talked to people recently, so I try to stay pretty involved in the sales process along with everything else. I'll, phone rings. I'm like, I got this one, right? Run over, pick it up, and have these conversations because that's how I can learn, right? And that's how we can grow the business just from having these talks with these guys. But he's like, my warranty is going to, exactly what you said. My warranty is expiring in 2 weeks. How can we, how can I get coverage? I'm like, well, it will be 30 days.
Yeah.
And he said exactly what you did. Murphy's Law, right? Of course it's going to, he did end up signing up. He's been great. He'll call in just with a random question. I always try to take his call if I can. So Brett is his name. So
nice.
I remember him. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about the insurance industry. Fraud does occur out there. Have you guys been exposed to any of that?
We have, not us exactly, but like I mentioned, Callie, our co-founder, when she was working with one of the other companies, they experienced some fraud. So one part of the claims process is submitting a picture of the damage. When she was there, she was working with her team, and one picture that came across her desk really stood out. She kind of questioned it, scratching her head, and she's like, I think I've seen this picture before, right? So this is a truck that was damaged, the part that they need to report back in, and she started digging and found more and more claims using the same picture.
Serious.
So there was a dealer network that had a damaged part. They were taking pictures of it, sharing it with the network. So all these guys are submitting these claims. I don't know the exact number, but I think it was in hundreds of thousands of dollars of fraudulent claims they filed.
Wow.
So it happens.
How do you protect yourself from something like that?
You just try to be vigilant with this, and once those dealer networks get that reputation, right, or you kind of feel like something's not quite right here, and there is a connection to these other ones. So you just got to watch for it.
There's a lot going on out there. With news, they have people staging crashes and going after insurance companies and things of that nature. That's a little bit more when it comes down to the litigation side of things. Insurance companies have to have their due diligence because, you have something like that, it taps resources from providing a valuable service to your customers too.
Sure. While I think the aftermarket warranty industry has probably gotten a bit of a bad rap, right? And I don't know that it's wholly deserved. I think if you don't understand what's covered on your truck, it could be, and it gets denied, that claim.
Yeah.
That could be, pretty upsetting. Right? Thinking that it's covered and it's not, I get that. So I think there is a little bit of that when it comes to the industry having a bad rap. But I also think there are some probably bad actors out there that try to manage their finance by manipulating, or not even manipulating, just having the ability to work the claims in their favor, right? lack of transparency, these proprietary groupings of parts like we talked about.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of levers they can pull to become more profitable. We're never going to hide anything. Are we going to cover everything, like I said? No. Meaning not all the parts can be covered, right?
Sure.
But if it's on the list and it's covered by your claim, yeah. We had to deny one last year. It was tough. And we sat there and went back and forth. It's like, this should not be covered. But what do we do? How do we do the right thing?
Right.
So
the extended warranty side of things, it's a protection,
yeah.
right? Perhaps it's a big cost and you may not be financially prepared for that. Or it's a downtime reassurance so that you can get back and running and have things going your way if something should happen unexpectedly. Of course, you want to do your due diligence, do your maintenance, and keep up with the warning lights and things like that prior to the longer hauls and stuff like that. But, in those cases where you need a repair and it's after the original manufacturer warranty, it's almost your responsibility to have something like this anyway. You just have to make sure that you understand up front what the coverage is so that you're prepared above and beyond maybe that coverage, or understanding what's out of the warranty and what's not.
There's a lot of moving parts, right?
Of course,
so to speak. But it's just knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And we just don't want to make it any more complicated.
Yep. Your advice to a trucker: how do you prepare for aftermarket warranties? Not necessarily just Truck Club, but in general. What's the best thing that they can do to prepare, to select the right companies, and then move forward from there?
One, it's understanding what your needs are, right? Understanding the coverage you need, the truck you have, what it's going to do. So one of our plans, our pro plan, is where we start with the after treatment protection and coverage, right?
Okay.
So that's important. So that falls into what your truck you have, right? So the earlier models didn't have it. Some of the guys back then were adding it on, which gets a little bit tricky. But if you have after treatment on your truck, that's something you want to consider. I think everybody knows that's kind of a delicate point on the truck that we need to make sure is being protected. Other than that, it's just picking a plan that really that suits you, right? Like I said, I think ours are a little more simplified, so there's not a lot of waste in there. We can't give you any more. We can't, we're not going to take anything away from it. So it's just understanding what your needs and wants are for your particular truck.
Truck Club's been in business 2 years now.
A little over 2 years, yeah.
How's it going? How's the business plan versus results? How's it look for the future?
It's good. It's always a challenge starting your own business and a new business, and especially in an industry that has a long history, right? So some of our competitors have been around a very long time. So it's always, we have to educate people, right? We have a little different product. It operates a little different way. So there's always kind of people take a step back. But what I've found talking to people is you have a great plan. These are great offerings. I love this plan. And that's what we hear, and that's encouraging.
Right.
They're like, I just need to shop around and make sure, right? So I don't know what they're hearing when they're shopping around.
Sure.
Right? And we are the newer guys.
Right.
But that shouldn't stop you. Newer doesn't mean we're any less. We're doing things a little differently, and I think that scares people sometimes.
Right.
But to me, different's good, right? Just because everybody else was doing it or have been doing it doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it's working. So we've kind of flipped the script and tried to rethink everything and just make it a better product, honestly. And we want to build trust. We want people to start talking about it. It's like, I bought this Truck Club plan, and they paid it out, no questions asked. Well, not no questions asked, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And they were there when I needed me, and that's what really drives us forward.
How can people find out about Truck Club?
So go to truckclub.com, check out our website. A lot of information on there. Anything that, any questions you have, pick up the phone and call us. We have somebody on the phone all day, happy to tell you and walk you through anything. If our protection specialist is what we call them, the guys on the phone, or our sales team don't have the answer, we'll get somebody else in the office to dig up that information and send it to you, right? We're happy to share it. Like I said, we'll share everything.
Excellent. Anything else you want to add?
No, I just appreciate the chance to be here. Hopefully I'll be here again when you're still doing this. I can come back 5 years from now and tell you how successful Truck Club has become.
I like it.
Yeah, we just want to help the trucking community. We want to help it grow and stay safe.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, Chad, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Bulldog. We constantly look for ways to improve your experience and deliver the stories and content you want to hear. Let us know what you think about this week's podcast. We're also interested in what topics you'd like for us to cover and what guests you think would make for an entertaining podcast. Please leave your comments and suggestions in the comments section below.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe and make sure to follow the Bulldog.